The message came on a Tuesday morning, and it changed everything humanity thought it knew about the universe. Commander Jack Harris stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel, Hope, and watched the massive alien ships hang in orbit above his planet. There were 12 of them, each one larger than any city on Earth. They belonged to the Galactic Council, a government of 200 alien species that had kept peace among the stars for 15,000 years. Humanity had made first contact only 3 years ago. In that short time, Earth had learned it was small, young, and considered primitive by galactic standards. The Council had given humans observer status, which meant they could watch but not vote. They could listen but not speak. They were guests in a house with rules written long before their species learned to walk upright. Senator Laura Kane stood in the Council's great chamber on the station orbiting Neptune. She was Earth's representative, though the title meant little. Around her sat beings of every shape and size. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had no solid form at all. They all looked at her with something between pity and boredom. The Arbiter, the supreme leader of the Council, was a tall creature with gray skin and 4 arms. His voice filled the chamber like rolling thunder. The human species will provide 10,000 children between the ages of 5 and 12 Earth years. They will be distributed among Council worlds for cultural integration. This is standard procedure for all new species. It has been law for 15,000 years. Larva felt her heart stop. You want us to give you our children? It is not a request, the Arbiter said. It is requirement for continued membership. Refusal means expulsion from Council space, economic sanctions, and isolation. Your species will not survive alone. But why children? Why not adults who can choose for themselves? Children adapt. Adults resist. The integration program has worked for thousands of species before you. Your children will learn Council ways. They will become bridges between your primitive world and our civilization. Larva wanted to scream. She wanted to fight. But Earth had no military that could challenge even one Council ship, let alone thousands. She had no power here. None at all. She returned to Earth with the news, and the world broke. In a small house in Ohio, the Dawson family ate dinner when the announcement came on every screen. Tom Dawson, a factory worker with rough hands and a gentle heart, looked at his wife Marie. Then they both looked at their daughter Emma, who was 8 years old and had no idea that her world was about to end. They can't take her, Marie whispered. They can't. But they could. And they did. 3 weeks later, collection ships landed in every country. Soldiers in strange armor walked through streets that had never seen anything but human feet. They carried lists. They had names. They had addresses. Commander Harris watched from a rooftop in New York as a ship descended into Central Park. He had fought in 3 wars for his country. He had faced death more times than he could count. But he had never felt so helpless. Children walked in lines toward the ships. Some cried. Some were silent. Their parents stood behind barriers, held back by Council soldiers, screaming names that their children would soon forget. Harris saw a little girl with brown hair look back at her mother one last time. The mother reached out her hand, but the girl was too far away. Then the ship door closed, and she was gone. Tom Dawson held Marie as Emma walked away from them. His daughter looked so small next to the alien soldiers. She carried a stuffed rabbit that she had slept with since she was 2. She turned and waved, and Tom felt something inside him die. "I'll find you," he shouted. "I promise, Emma. Daddy will find you." But Emma couldn't hear him. The door closed. The ship rose. And 10,000 human children left Earth, perhaps forever. The Council called it integration. They called it opportunity. They called it the price of civilization. Humanity called it death. In the weeks that followed, Earth fell into grief. Parents wandered streets like ghosts. Schools sat empty. Playgrounds gathered dust. The laughter of children, once so common that no one noticed it, became the loudest silence the world had ever known. Admiral Ben Carter, the head of United Earth Defense Command, sat in his office and stared at a picture of his granddaughter. She had been taken too. She was 6 years old and loved to paint pictures of horses. A knock came at his door. Commander Harris entered, his face hard as stone. "I found something," Harris said. He placed a data pad on the Admiral's desk. "I have a contact inside Council space. An alien named Vorath who thinks the integration program is wrong. He's been feeding me information." Admiral Carter looked at the data. His hands began to shake. "The children from previous species," Harris said. "None of them were ever seen again. Not one. In 15,000 years, not a single integrated child has returned to their homeworld or been heard from by their families. What happens to them?" Genetic research. The Council takes children because their DNA is pure, uncorrupted by age or disease. They use them to develop biological weapons, medical treatments, whatever they need. The children are resources, Admiral. Nothing more. Admiral Carter closed his eyes. He thought of his granddaughter holding a paintbrush, her tongue sticking out in concentration as she tried to make the horse look real. "What do you want to do?" he asked. Harris leaned forward. "I want to get them back. All of them. Every single child they took. The Council has existed for 15,000 years. They have thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. Technology we can barely understand. They also have something else," Harris said. "They have peace. They've had it so long they've forgotten what war looks like. Their weapons are ancient. Their tactics are ceremonial. They've never faced an enemy who truly wanted to hurt them." Admiral Carter looked at the commander for a long moment. "Humanity has never stopped fighting," Carter said slowly. "We've been at war with ourselves since we climbed down from the trees." "Yes, sir. And now we have a reason to turn all that violence outward. They took our children, Admiral. They took them and they lied about why." Carter stood and walked to his window. Outside, the sun was setting over a world that had lost its future. How long to build a force that can challenge them? 18 months. Maybe less if we push hard enough. The Admiral turned around. His eyes were wet, but his voice was steady. "Then we push. We push until we break. And then we push some more." He extended his hand. "Get our children back, Commander. Whatever it takes." Harris shook the Admiral's hand. "Whatever it takes," he agreed. And somewhere in the dark between stars, 10,000 children waited for someone to remember them. Someone did. 18 months passed, and the galaxy believed Earth had accepted its place. The Galactic Council watched humanity through sensors and spies. They saw a broken species. They saw parents who had stopped fighting and started grieving. They saw governments that spoke of cooperation and understanding. They saw exactly what they expected to see from a primitive world that had learned its lesson. They saw nothing of what happened underground, beneath the mountains of Colorado. Dr. Meg Palmer stood before a weapon that should not exist. It was a cannon that fired concentrated energy pulses, based on Council technology, but improved in ways the aliens had never imagined. Where Council weapons could damage a ship's hull, this one could cut through it like paper. "How did we make it better than theirs?" asked General Scott Davis, who stood beside her. "Because they stopped trying," Meg said. "Their weapons are 15,000 years old. They work, so why change them? But humans never stop asking what if. We took their designs and asked what if 1,000 times. This is the result. In shipyards hidden beneath the oceans, workers built vessels in secret. The ships were smaller than Council cruisers, but faster and more deadly. Each one carried weapons that could destroy targets 10 times their size. Each one was crewed by soldiers who had volunteered for a mission. They might not survive. Commander Jack Harris stood in the construction bay and watched the 500th ship receive its final touches. It was beautiful in a terrible way, all sharp angles and dark metal. A machine built for one purpose. Only Captain Ryan Cole walked up beside him. Cole was 35, a special operations soldier who had spent his career in the shadows. He moved like a ghost and felt like a chess master. "The teams are ready," Cole said. 2 million soldiers trained for close combat in alien environments. They know the mission. They know the risks, and they're still willing? "Sir, half of them lost children in the taking. The other half have brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews who were taken. There's no shortage of volunteers. If anything, we had to turn people away." Harris nodded. Every nation on Earth had united for this. Countries that had been enemies for centuries now worked together without question. Humanity had found something that erased all borders and all differences. They had found Rage. In a secure room deep beneath London, Dr. Claire Mitchell reviewed intelligence reports. She was a xenobiologist, an expert in alien life, but now she served as the chief intelligence officer for what they called Operation Homecoming. Maps covered every wall. Each map showed a different planet, a different facility, a different location where human children were being held. 47 worlds in total, spread across council space like drops of blood on a white cloth. Her contact, Vorath, had been invaluable. The alien was a scientist who had worked in council research facilities for decades. He had seen what happened to integrated children. He had watched them suffer, and he had decided he could not stay silent any longer. "The children are alive," Claire told the assembled officers. "All 10,000 of them, distributed across 47 research facilities. They're being used for genetic sampling, medical experiments, and biological weapon development. Any deaths?" Harris asked. "Some. We don't have exact numbers. But most are alive, Commander. They're scared and confused and far from home, but they're alive. Then we bring them home." Admiral Ben Carter entered the room. He had aged 10 years in 18 months. His hair had gone white, and his face carried lines that had not been there before. But his eyes burned with purpose. "The Council fleet is stationed at their capital world," he said. 3,000 ships, give or take. If we attack the research facilities, they'll respond. We'll be spread across 47 planets while their full force comes for Earth. "We know," Harris said. "That's why we need to be fast. Hit all 47 targets at once. Grab the children and get out before they can organize. And if we're not fast enough, then we leave ships behind to defend Earth while the extraction continues. We finish the mission no matter what." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. Some of them would not survive this. Many of them would not survive this. General Davis spoke up. "Our ships are better, but they have numbers. If they reach Earth while our fleet is scattered, 50 ships won't hold them off for long." "They don't need to hold them off forever," Carter said. "Just long enough for our people to get the children home. After that, we can talk, negotiate, or fight. But the children come first." Tom Dawson had joined the military the day after Emma was taken. He was 42 years old, too old for combat by normal standards, but nothing about this was normal. They had trained him, hardened him, and given him a rifle. Now he sat in the belly of an assault ship, surrounded by other parents who had made the same choice. They did not talk much. They did not need to. They all knew why they were here. A sergeant walked through the hold. "We jump in 6 hours. Sleep if you can. Eat if you can. When we land, you follow orders and you stay focused. We're not here for revenge. We're here for rescue. Get the kids. Get out. Go home." Understood? Yes, Sergeant, the soldiers said together. Tom closed his eyes, but did not sleep. He thought of Emma's face when she walked onto that ship. He thought of her stuffed rabbit, probably lost by now, forgotten in some alien facility. He thought of the promise he had made. I'll find you. Across the fleet, 500,000 soldiers thought similar thoughts. They remembered birthdays missed and bedtime stories interrupted. They remembered small hands reaching up for hugs and small voices asking for one more song. They remembered everything the Council had tried to make them forget. Admiral Carter stood on the bridge of the flagship Unity. The ship hummed with power, ready to tear holes in space and appear wherever it was needed. All ships report ready, his aide said. Carter looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, his granddaughter waited. Somewhere out there, 10,000 children waited. Send the signal, he said. Operation Homecoming is a go. 500 ships vanished from Earth orbit, leaving only darkness behind. The Council did not notice. They were too busy congratulating themselves on another successful integration. They did not know that the darkness was coming for them. They would learn soon enough. The galaxy had never seen anything like it at exactly the same moment. Across 47 different worlds, human ships tore through space and appeared in orbit. There was no warning. There was no declaration of war. There was only fire. Council defense stations exploded before they could send a single message. Communication networks went dark as human hackers flooded them with noise. Ships that tried to flee were cut down by weapons that moved faster than thought. On the Council capital world, alarms screamed through the high chamber. The new arbiter, who had taken power only months ago, demanded answers that no one could give. How many ships? He shouted. We don't know. Reports are confused. At least 500, maybe more. They appeared everywhere at once. That's impossible. No species can coordinate attacks across such distances. But humans could. Humans had spent 80 months planning every detail, timing every jump, calculating every variable. They had turned their gift for war into a precision instrument. Commander Jack Harris led the assault on Facility 7, the largest research station in Council space. His ship punched through the orbital defenses like a fist through glass. Behind him, troop carriers descended toward the surface. Ground teams, you have 12 minutes, Harris said into his communicator. Find the children, secure the extraction points, and signal for pickup. No delays. No excuses. Understood, Commander. Captain Ryan Cole replied from the surface. Cole hit the ground running. Around him, 500 soldiers spread out across the facility compound. They moved in teams of 4, fast and silent, clearing rooms and corridors with practiced efficiency. Council guards tried to resist. They wore ceremonial armor that had never seen real combat. They carried weapons designed for crowd control, not warfare. Against human soldiers, they lasted seconds. Contact left, a soldier called out. 3 guards neutralized. Contact right. 2 guards down. Corridor clear. Moving to Block C. Cole found the first group of children in a dormitory wing. They huddled in corners, eyes wide with fear. They wore gray uniforms without names, without identity. Some of them had forgotten their own languages. It's okay, Cole said softly. We're from Earth. We're here to take you home. A boy, maybe 10 years old, looked up at him. Earth? Yes, Earth. Your parents are waiting for you. The boy started to cry. He had been told his parents gave him away. He had been told no one wanted him. He had believed it for 18 months. Let's go, Cole said. Stay close to my soldiers. They'll protect you. Across 47 worlds, similar scenes played out. Human soldiers broke into facilities and found children who had given up hope. They found laboratories where small bodies were tested and sampled. They found records of experiments that would give nightmares to anyone who read them. They found something else. 2. In the deepest level of Facility 7. A soldier named Tom Dawson kicked open a sealed door and stopped breathing. The room beyond was massive, filled with glass containers that stretched from floor to ceiling. Inside each container, a child floated in blue liquid, suspended in artificial sleep. There were thousands of them. They were not human. Tom walked through the rows, reading labels he could barely understand. Species names from worlds he had never heard of. Dates going back centuries, millennia, 15,000 years of stolen children kept in cold storage. "Captain Cole," he said into his radio, "you need to see this." Cole arrived minutes later. He stood in silence, taking in the horror of it. "They kept them all," he whispered. "Every species they integrated. They never let any of them go." "Sir, what do we do?" Cole thought for only a moment. "We wake them up. Every single one. And we take them with us." The mission had just gotten bigger. In orbit, Commander Harris received the report and felt his stomach turn. The Council had not just taken human children. They had been taking children from every new species for 15,000 years. Thousands upon thousands of lives, suspended in time, waiting for a rescue that never came. Until now. "Adjust the extraction timeline," Harris ordered. "We're bringing them all." "Sir, we don't have room for thousands more." "Then make room. Dump cargo, double up quarters. I don't care. We are not leaving any child behind." On the ground, soldiers worked faster. They woke children from stasis, carried those too weak to walk, and formed protective circles around groups too large to count. The 12-minute timeline stretched to 20. Then 30. Council reinforcements began to arrive. Ships appeared in orbit, weapons hot, commanders screaming for blood. They had finally organized a response. Harris smiled grimly. "About time. All ships, engage defensive positions. Protect the extraction points." Human ships turned to face the Council fleet. They were outnumbered 3-1. But they had better weapons and better pilots. Space became a storm of fire and light. Tom Dawson found Emma in the 3rd dormitory he searched. She sat alone in a corner, holding a piece of cloth that might once have been a stuffed rabbit. She looked up when he entered, and her eyes went wide. "Daddy?" Tom fell to his knees. He could not speak. He could not breathe. He just opened his arms. Emma ran to him. She hit him so hard she almost knocked him over. Her small arms wrapped around his neck, and she held on like she would never let go. "You came," she said. "You promised and you came. I will always come for you," Tom said through tears. Always, no matter what. Around them, the battle raged. Ships exploded. Soldiers fought and died. But in that moment, in that small room on an alien world, a father held his daughter, and the universe made sense again. "Time to go home." "Sweetheart," Tom said. "Okay, Daddy." He picked her up and carried her toward the extraction point. She weighed almost nothing. She had lost weight in the facility, lost color in her cheeks, lost something in her eyes that would take years to return. But she was alive. And she was coming home. The last transport lifted off as Council troops breached the perimeter. Human ships covered the retreat, sacrificing themselves to buy time for the transports to escape. Dozens of pilots flew into certain death without hesitation. When the jump drives activated and the stars blurred, 10,000 human children and 12,000 alien children were aboard human ships, heading for Earth. Behind them, the Council fleet regrouped and turned toward a new target, Earth itself. Commander Harris received the report with cold acceptance. The Council was sending everything they had. 3,000 ships, united in rage, racing toward humanity's homeworld. How long until they arrive? 6 hours, Commander. 6 hours. Not enough time to get home and set up defenses. Not even close. Send a message to Admiral Carter, Harris said. Tell him what's coming. Tell him to hold as long as he can. The message flew across space at the speed of light. Earth was about to face the fury of a 15,000-year empire, and they had only 50 ships to stop it. Admiral Ben Carter stood on the bridge of the orbital station Liberty and watched death approach. 3,000 Council ships filled his display screen, a wall of metal and fire stretching across the darkness of space. Behind him, Earth hung blue and green and fragile, home to 8 billion people who had no idea what was coming. He had 50 ships. 50 against 3,000. All stations report ready, his aide said quietly. Carter nodded. He had sent a message to every family on Earth, telling them to go underground, to hide, to pray if they believed in such things. He had told them the truth, that humanity had struck back against the Council, that they had rescued the children, and that now the enemy was coming for revenge. He did not tell them how badly outnumbered they were. Some lies were necessary. Open a channel, he said. All frequencies. The communication officer nodded. Channel open, Admiral. Carter took a breath. This is Admiral Ben Carter of United Earth Defense. I am speaking to the Council fleet approaching our world. 18 months ago, you took our children. You told us it was law. You told us it was tradition. You lied. He paused, letting the words carry across space. We have recovered our children. We have also recovered yours, the children of every species you have stolen from for 15,000 years. They are safe. They will be returned to their families. But if you attack Earth, if you harm a single human being in pursuit of revenge, there will be no negotiation. There will be no surrender. There will be only war until one of us is destroyed. The Council fleet did not slow down. Carter closed the channel. I tried, he said to no one in particular. Now we fight. The battle began at the edge of Earth's orbit. 50 human ships flew into a wall of enemy fire. They were faster, more nimble, more deadly than anything the Council had. But numbers were numbers, and physics was physics. Human ships exploded one by one. Pilots died screaming into their radios. Families on Earth watched lights disappear from the sky and wondered which one was their son, their daughter, their husband, their wife. But for every human ship that fell, 10 Council ships died. Human weapons carved through enemy hulls like hot knives. Human tactics confused Council commanders who had only read about war in ancient histories. General Scott Davis commanded the ground defenses. Massive cannons hidden across Earth's surface fired into space, hitting targets that should have been impossible to reach. Satellites launched missiles that turned Council ships into burning wreckage. Keep firing, Davis ordered. Make them pay for every kilometer. Senator Lara Kane sat in a bunker beneath Washington, broadcasting to the galaxy. She had evidence now, hard evidence of everything the Council had done. Records from the facilities, testimonies from rescued children, videos of the experiments. People of the galaxy, she said, her voice reaching every world that would listen. For 15,000 years, the Council has told you that your children were being integrated, educated, given opportunities. This was a lie. Your children were taken to research facilities. They were used for experiments. Many of them are still alive, held in stasis, waiting for rescue. We have freed thousands of them. We will free more, but only if you help us. On 100 different worlds, parents who had given up children decades ago began to weep. Governments that had accepted the Council's laws began to question. Species that had never thought to resist began to wonder. In orbit, Admiral Carter's flagship took a direct hit. Alarms screamed. Fires broke out across 3 decks. Damage reports flooded in faster than anyone could read them. Hull breach on levels 4 through 7. Engine 2 is offline. Shields at 12%. Carter gripped the railing to stay upright. Status of the fleet? 23 ships remaining, Admiral. We've destroyed over 300 enemy vessels, but they keep coming. 23 against more than 2,000. It was hopeless. It had always been hopeless. But hope was not why they were fighting. All ships, Carter said. It has been an honor serving with you. Continue the attack. Make them remember us. The Liberty shuddered as another blast hit home. Systems failed. Lights flickered. The old admiral looked at his crew, young men and women who had chosen to stay and fight when they could have run. Get to the escape pods, he ordered. That's a direct command. Sir, we won't leave you. Yes, you will. The station's drives are still functional. I'm going to ram the Council flagship. But there's no reason for you to die with me. His crew hesitated. Then, one by one, they saluted and moved toward the pods. Carter took the controls himself. The Liberty groaned as he pushed the damaged engines to full power. Ahead, the Council flagship grew larger in his view screen. It was enormous, covered in gold and silver, a symbol of 15,000 years of power. He thought of his granddaughter. She was safe now, somewhere on a human ship heading home. She would grow up. She would paint pictures of horses. She would live. That was enough. For Earth, Carter said quietly. For our children. The Liberty struck the flagship at full speed. The explosion lit up space like a new sun. Both ships vanished in a ball of fire that could be seen from Earth's surface. The Council fleet faltered. Their supreme commander was dead. Their flagship was gone. For the first time in 15,000 years, they knew fear. And then, salvation arrived. Ships appeared from hyperspace, hundreds of them. They were not human. They came from 30 different species, worlds that had heard Senator Kane's broadcast and answered. This is the Combined Liberation Fleet, a voice announced on all channels. We are parents. We were told our children were dead. We have just learned the truth. Council vessels, stand down or be destroyed. The Council fleet, already shaken, broke formation. Some tried to fight. They died quickly. Others tried to flee. The Liberation Fleet hunted them down. Within 2 hours, it was over. The space around Earth was filled with wreckage and silence. Commander Harris arrived with the rescue fleet to find victory, waiting for him. He stood on his bridge and watched human ships dock with alien ships. Watched soldiers from different worlds shake hands and embrace. Admiral Carter? He asked. Gone, sir. He rammed the Council flagship. Took it out himself. Harris closed his eyes. Ben Carter had been his mentor, his friend, the man who had believed in this mission when it seemed impossible. He saved us all, Harris said. Make sure everyone knows that. The first transport carrying children descended toward Earth. It landed in a field outside of Chicago, where thousands of families had gathered despite the danger. Tom Dawson stepped off the ship, holding Emma's hand. She looked around at the blue sky, the green grass, the familiar sun. She breathed air that smelled like home. Marie Dawson ran through the crowd. She fell to her knees and wrapped her arms around her daughter. Tom put his arms around both of them, and for a long moment, they just held each other. I'm home, Emma whispered. I'm really home. Around them, similar reunions played out. Children found parents. Parents found children. Strangers hugged strangers. The whole world wept with joy. But the work was not done. There were still thousands of alien children who needed to go home. There was still a council that had collapsed. There was still a galaxy that needed leadership. And humanity, for better or worse, had just proven it was ready to provide it. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Earth, and the galaxy would never be the same, The Galactic Council had collapsed in a matter of weeks. When the truth about the integration program spread, species that had been loyal members for millennia turned away in disgust. Governments fell. Leaders were arrested. An empire built on lies crumbled into dust. In its place, something new was being born. Admiral Jack Harris stood at the center of the assembly chamber on Earth. Representatives from 80 different species sat around him, filling the massive hall with colors and shapes and languages that no human had seen before the taking. They had come to build a future together. "We are not here to replace one empire with another," Harris said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. "We are here to create something better. A galactic alliance based on honesty, cooperation, and one simple rule. We protect each other's children." The representatives nodded. Many of them had received their own children back in the past months. Ships from Earth had traveled to dozens of worlds, delivering young people who had been stolen generations ago. Some of those children were now adults, awakened from stasis to find their parents old or dead. Others were still young, confused by worlds they did not remember, but they were home. That was what mattered. Senator Laura Kane sat in the front row, watching Harris speak. She had been offered leadership positions a dozen times since the war, but she always refused. Her job was to speak for Earth, and that was enough. "The old council kept new species weak on purpose," Harris continued. "They took children to harvest genetic material and develop weapons. But they also did it to break us. A species mourning its children does not have the strength to rise. They knew this. They counted on it." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "They were wrong about humanity. And I believe they would have been wrong about any of you. The love a parent has for their child is the strongest force in the universe. It does not break. It does not fade. It waits and grows until the moment it can act. The council forgot this. We will not." Captain Ryan Cole sat in the back of the chamber. He had been offered promotions and medals, but he had turned them all down. He did not fight for glory. He fought for the mission, and the mission was complete. Now he was training soldiers from allied species, teaching them the tactics and strategies that had won the war. They were eager students. They had seen what happened when a determined force faced a stagnant enemy, and they wanted to be ready if such a threat ever rose again. Dr. Claire Mitchell led the Interspecies Child Recovery program from a headquarters in Geneva. Her teams worked around the clock, tracing family records, matching DNA, and reuniting children with relatives who had given up hope long ago. Some cases were harder than others. A child taken 3,000 years ago might have no living family. Their species might have changed beyond recognition. Mitchell worked with each case personally, making sure no one was forgotten. "Every child matters," she told her staff. "Every single one." On a small farm in Ohio, the Dawson family was learning to be whole again. Emma had nightmares most nights. She woke up screaming, convinced she was back in the facility, convinced the gray walls were closing in. Tom and Marie took turns sitting with her, holding her hand, reminding her she was safe. "It's okay," Marie would whisper. "You're home. You're with us. No one will ever take you again." Slowly, Emma was getting better. She had started painting, something she had never done before the taking. Her therapist said it helped her express feelings she could not put into words. Her paintings were dark at first, full of shadows and empty rooms. But lately, they had started to include light. A yellow sun, green grass, a family holding hands. Tom watched his daughter paint and felt something like hope. The 18 months had changed her. They had changed all of them. But change did not have to mean loss. Sometimes it meant growth. The memorial was built on a hill overlooking the ocean. It was a simple wall of black stone, carved with the names of everyone who had died in the war. Admiral Ben Carter's name was at the top, followed by hundreds of others. Pilots, soldiers, engineers, doctors. People who had given everything so that children could come home. Harris visited the memorial on the anniversary of the battle. He stood alone in the morning light, reading names he had known and names he had not. Each one was a story that ended too soon. They asked me what we would have done if we lost, he said to the stone. I told them we would have kept fighting. Forever, if we had to. They didn't understand. He touched Carter's name with his fingertips. But you understood. You always did. A visitor approached from behind. Harris turned to find an alien diplomat, a member of a species that had stayed neutral during the war. His name was something unpronounceable, so Harris simply called him Ambassador. Admiral Harris, the ambassador said. I have a question that has troubled me since the battle. Ask, what would your species have done if you had lost the war? If Earth had fallen and your fleet had been destroyed? Harris looked at him for a long moment. We would have scattered, hidden, built new ships in secret and struck again. And again. And again. Until every child was home or every human was dead. But that could have taken centuries, millennia. Yes, you would have sacrificed your civilization for 10,000 children? Harris smiled, but there was no humor in it. Ambassador, you still don't understand. Those children were our civilization. Without them, we had nothing left to save. No future to protect. No reason to exist. The ambassador was silent. The council thought they could take our children, and we would accept it, Harris said. They thought we would grieve and move on. They had seen 100 species do exactly that. But humans are different. We don't move on. We don't forget. We carry our pain until we can turn it into action. That's what makes us dangerous. That's what makes us who we are. And now? Now that the children are home? Harris turned back to the memorial. Now we build something better. A galaxy where no parent ever has to feel what we felt. A galaxy where children grow up safe and loved, no matter what species they belong to. That's the future we're fighting for now. The ambassador nodded slowly. I believe I understand. Your species loves fiercely. We do. And you protect what you love at any cost. At any cost, Harris agreed. The sun rose higher over the memorial, warming the names carved into stone. Somewhere in the galaxy, children were playing games, learning lessons, growing into the people they were meant to be. Human children. Alien children. All of them protected by a promise written in sacrifice. Never again. The galaxy had learned what happened when you threatened humanity's young. It was a lesson written in fire and blood, in broken ships and shattered empires. Some lessons once learned are never forgotten. This was one of them.